You lie about the money you make. You lie because you don't know how they will react to your ideals. You lie because your parents are not prepared to know that you are gay or that you're not a religious person. You lie with foresight. You lie out of civility. You lie out of education. You lie because it is what you have been taught to do. You lie because you see that even though everyone says they want the truth, you learn that they don't really want it. You lie about whether you have depression because they ask you fewer questions and they don't make you feel worse than you are. You lie because you want to create a clean image of yourself publicly. You lie saying that your game will be impressive, but you didn't specify impressively bad. You lie to rewrite history and look like a hero. You lie in general because in that particular situation that has been created, it suits you. Everyone lies because in general we are idiots, emotionally and honestly idiots. There are few people in this world who really want to know the truth. And if they do want to know it, it will generally be because they are people of science. Biology doesn't lie, nor mathematics, nor geology, nor chemistry can have calculation errors, but they don't lie, people lie. For that reason, any science that is based on contact with people will be greatly influenced by lies. The doctor has to deal with the patient's lies. 80% of these patients admitted that at some point in their life, they lied, either because they felt judged, or because they were afraid that their family would know their secrets, or because of their beliefs. In that respect, the series of Dr. House is very faithful to reality, but it is not the only field that has to battle with the lies of human beings. The sociologist has his own war with the inherent hypocrisy of all human societies. And the psychologist, well, if he doesn't become a lie detector with legs, he will never be able to help anyone, because we are so stubborn that we lie even when it harms us. Even in justice, truth is malleable, interpretable, and influenced, just like memory, because trials are often based on testimonies, that is, on memories, and evidence, although valuable, needs to be accompanied by a credible narrative. Evidence alone is not synonymous with truth. It is evidence that helps to reach a conclusion. Whether that conclusion is true or not will depend on the narrative you give it. Justice is influenced, for that reason, in the O.J. Simpson trial. The defense believed that the majority of the jury would be black, because they would simply sympathize more with him. They would transfer elements of their life to O.J.'s. And no matter how compelling the evidence was, they would declare him innocent, perhaps believing that the police manipulated the evidence. There were even those who greeted them, giving them strength, which is what you look for in a jury, right? Complicity, and not impartiality. And that the police have manipulated evidence. Historically, it is known that yes. Whether they did it to O.J. is hard to know. And there you have it. You don't need the truth, just doubt. So, you can only trust yourself? Well, nah. Although our senses are quite developed, illusions exist in all areas. Visual hallucinations that make you perceive space or colors wrong. Auditory hallucinations, which trick you into believing, for example, that a frequency is constantly falling. Tactile hallucinations, which make you believe that something has touched you. Scrupulous people know well the feeling when seeing a cockroach, a spider, or whatever. They feel so repulsed that at times they think they have something on them. They can feel it moving and everything. You can't even trust yourself, not only because sensory hallucinations exist, but for the simple reason that you are the first person interested in lying to yourself. The beliefs you have about yourself and the world are a collection of facts that are undeniable to you. the axioms of your own world that you don't need to prove because you know they're true. Each one firmly believing that he is the protagonist of the world, so immersed in his character that sometimes it's easy to forget that all the people you've seen throughout your life also believed they were the protagonists, each with their own lies that made them feel unique. It's our way of relating to each other. A world that was always 100% sincere would be hard, rough, unpleasant, and in fact, less interesting. If characters like Santa Claus exist, it's because reality is so boring that we have to lie to make it interesting. The magic ends when the truth begins. We believed for a long time that the sun revolved around the earth, but the idea of feeling like the center of the world will never die. Precisely because of how the mind works. There in your head you are alone, and it would be inconceivable not to feel like the protagonist when the world exists, only because you shape it. Your mind, your world. For that reason, because we perceive ourselves as the protagonists of our world, we justify our lies and we demonize those of others. My lies have a deep, logical, and recent justification. They have a reason for being. Yours are out of malice or insecurity, or because you want to manipulate. There is a place, however, where people do not usually lie, because they are not talking to other people, and they do not feel judged. A place where everyone can really be who they are. I am talking about the internet, about search engines like Google. Even though we know that our information is collected, it does not have a direct impact on our lives. Thanks to that relative privacy, people confess everything. That's why it's often said that those who handle this information know you better than you do yourself, because although you are capable of lying to yourself, you can't lie to the internet. It's not impulsive. You have to write down exactly what you want to search for. It's one of the few times that you get out of the pilot exactly what you want to search for. It's one of the few times that you get out of the autopilot. That's where anyone can search for their true political ideal. That's where anyone can search for what pleases them the most. Search for what they deeply fear. That's when parents can confess to the world without fear that they regret having had children. And it's a percentage that scares anyone, because it's not a confession to feel better. The excuse is not to explain that their lives are more complicated now with children. They want to understand that they are not monsters for having wished not to have them. That's why they don't tell the world. But the internet does. They already feel guilty enough that other people also judge them, especially if they don't understand the most basic things. That feeling is quite normal. As long as you don't want to hurt your child, wishing you hadn't had one is quite common, because it's not a silly thing to bring a life into this world. And many people only realize this once they've done it. Do you want to know another secret? There is a very high percentage of women who really like stuffed animals, but a lot. You know what I mean? In a somewhat intimate way. Thanks to the internet, you know that some women, especially in India, search for, does my husband want me to breastfeed him? Well, considering the number of men who have confessed this fantasy to Google, maybe he does, but I highly doubt he'll admit it. What worries them about their body is the size, a classic. For her, it's more about the shape and size. The main concern about her body is the intimate smell. First, they find out if it's normal, if it happens to other girls, and then how to improve it. And to make the joke, they look for how to tell her without hurting her feelings. Ultimately, all of these searches help you feel that you are not alone, that surely whatever you have searched for has been done by hundreds of thousands as well. A small fraction of truth shared by so many people. that it becomes a new reality that many are unaware of, because everyone lies. It does not surprise you for a second that surveys, even if anonymous, suffer from the optimism of the respondent, as long as an answer is seen as more socially acceptable, because even though they are anonymous, they still feel that they have to push the limits of the truth, or just lie. I have read one book in 3 years, but I consider myself a frequent reader. The newspaper should count as reading. Do you consider yourself a kind person? Yes. Pure kindness. Do you consider yourself more intelligent than average? Have you seen what there is out there? Of course, at work you are one of the hardest workers. Everyone is lazy, except me. Are you a committed person? Once I picked up a piece of paper from the floor. So, yes, you are the good one, and the others are the bad ones. It seems like you can read my mind, yes. Why? Why lie under those conditions? If they are anonymous? Well, according to Roger Duran and me, we do it out of habit. We lie so often that it is transferred to surveys. When it comes in the form of a question, there is that impulse to answer the most acceptable option. Without forgetting, of course, there is that impulse to answer the most acceptable option. Without forgetting, of course, that, as I said, we are the first to lie to ourselves. Many may truly consider themselves committed to the environment for having picked up a piece of paper from the street, even if they have never recycled a bottle in their life. You can't tell the truth if you're lying to yourself. If you keep believing that saying hello means having an average high level of English, that I've pronounced it well. Think about it. Have you ever searched for something that you'd be embarrassed if it was known? Think about me, and tell me no. Who are more sexist, men or women? Both. When they're parents. You know it by the number of searches they do related to their sons or daughters, and what those searches are, for example. They search twice as often for my daughter is fat compared to my son is fat. With them, they're concerned about beauty. Is my daughter pretty or ugly? Which I don't really know what they're hoping to find. It's not like Google is going to tell you. With them, they're more concerned about intelligence. Is my son intelligent? Or is my son a genius? The funny thing about all this is that if we talk about overweight, it's more common to find it in men. Less so when you jump to morbid obesity. And for some reason, women lead the way. By the way, all this doesn't work on social media. There is a very powerful incentive to lie after all, even if you don't physically see those people. Everything you say or show will be seen by others. Companies don't care what you say, because over time, they learn something very valuable. Don't trust what they say, but what they do. There is a story with Netflix about this issue. If they asked users what movies they would like to see in the future, they filled the list with options that they rarely saw. They made the mistake of asking, when the best thing was to simply observe. The user, Layer123, has seen 10 movies about martial arts. Let's recommend another 10. Together, with other movies that we have seen that profiles similar to theirs usually like. What is now the most normal thing in the world, because everyone does it, was a learning experience, learning that they don't have to pay attention to what we say we want and just pay attention to where we look. They recommend games based on your previous purchases. They recommend videos, songs or images similar to the ones you search for. And companies do really crazy things and are very interested in knowing if you lie. Banks were used as an example, situations where a loan was requested. Thanks to a large collection of data, they saw that those who used certain types of words were less likely to pay back the loan. Words like God, I promise, I will pay it back, or hospital. Think about the context. Someone who swears to God, someone who talks about relatives in the hospital, someone who repeats too many times that they will pay it back. It has all been said over the years. Of course, certain techniques have been developed to ask the right questions in surveys, more precise situations, leaving less room for interpretation. But as much as it has improved, it will still be 1,000,000 times better to observe Seth Stephens, the author of Big Data, New Data, what the internet can tell us about who we really are. The last thing I found from him is that he seemed to suggest that these searches could help predict where future COVID outbreaks would occur, with things as simple as knowing which countries or which regions within those countries started searching for things like "I can't smell" or "I'm losing my taste." You just had to look at the history. To see this, look at previous outbreaks and see if those types of searches were increasing and searches were increasing. And it turns out that they were. Before the big outbreak in Italy, they searched like crazy for non sento odori. For those who don't master the language of mozzarella, I can't smell. I've always been amazed at the way people search on Google, talking to it as if it were a person instead of thinking of the words they want to find. What is the name of the Harry Potter actor, Mr. Google? Thank you very much in advance. Have a nice day, instead of real name Harry Potter, or as above, my daughter is fat, instead of average weight for age, height, gender and build. Yes, people lie. What a surprise, constantly following the study of who lies, done with a survey, which you can already imagine how ironic and funny it is. People lied from 0 to 46 times a week. What do I say, 0? Well, predictable, but 46. Where do you get the time to lie so much? We lie to anyone who is close, friends, family, partners. In fact, the more time you spend with that person and you care about them, the more lies you will tell them, and the fatter they are. Not out of malice, just because of the time you've spent together, which means you've had more time to add lies, big and small. Over time, you have to keep lying so as not to destroy that reality that was created over time. In this case, I always like to remember the anecdote of the thin red line, that friend who the second or third time he asked me if I had seen it. I don't know why. I swear I don't know. But I said yes when I hadn't seen it. I wasn't looking for acceptance. We were already friends. He didn't get super heavy on the subject either, just a little. But even so, I lied about something stupid. A movie that, by the way, I've never seen. Why do we say that the book was better than the movie without having read it? Why do we recommend restaurants we don't go to or games we don't play? Why do we consciously exaggerate anecdotes? Why do we lie? Of course, everything has its reason. Sometimes you lie as a way to protect your ego. Sometimes you just want to avoid an awkward situation. Sometimes you don't want to disappoint others, or you don't want to lose someone. Whatever it is, it can be summed up as either you don't want to disappoint others, or you don't want to lose someone. Whatever it is, it can be summed up as making things easier. When interviewing a girl with depression, the therapist asked her why she tried so hard not to show that she had depression, to lie to those around her, making them see that she was fine. She said that since she was young, she had many times when she felt like a real monster. She tried to get her mother's attention by breaking things and crying, but it didn't help her behavior at all. She realized that others could see how damaged she was, and she didn't want them to see it. Maybe because it made her feel even worse. So she did the opposite. Act as if nothing mattered to her, pretend that everything was fine, and it worked for others. It's a bad strategy, because it only serves to stop others from asking questions, not to make you feel better. The bad thing is that it means that the person no longer saw hope for themselves. and their new strategy focused on not letting others know how they felt, not causing pity, going unnoticed, suffering alone. Well, I don't want to ramble on about that now, considering that I'd like to make a video about it. That's the thing about lies. They're not good or bad just because they exist. They're good or bad by interpretation, and what some consider white lies can be unpleasant for others. Is it ethical to lie? It depends. Would you tell a patient that they have one day left to live, or would you give them hope until the end? Giving hope may sound cruel, but who wants to die in fear? Why not temporarily put aside your atheism to agree that your child is now with God? Later, if you want, laugh at the irony that lying is a sin in religion. Not only religion, in fact, philosophy, mostly the ancient one, that of Aristotle, repudiated lying, whatever its purpose. Under no circumstances should one lie. Luis Alberto Garcia, a Cuban actor, said, "Acting is being a very good liar. Acting is a lie. You are playing a person you are not, saying other people's words, living a life that does not belong to you." So, the actor's job is to fabricate a lie in the most perfect way possible so that it becomes a truth in the eyes of others. But philosophy is huge. It is never treated as a closed book, but as a book that is not yet written. That is why many other philosophical branches say that fiction cannot be considered a lie, since both parties know that it is. Then it should be treated as an entertaining falsehood. Falsehood and lie, veracity and truth. Would you say they are synonyms? I want you to think about it in a philosophical way, not a literal one. Being truthful is said of someone who tells the truth. So what happens when someone with bad information but good intentions believes they are telling the truth? It turns out that they are lying. That is why these philosophical branches distinguish between falsehood and lies. A falsehood is fun, it is entertaining, it is fiction. A lie, although I have personal lies to the contrary, is always bad. A lie is useful, yes, a tool that we use in our daily lives. But abusing it generates distrust, of course. It is a powerful weapon that can give you control of the situation and express what you want. But the punishment for being discovered is also very great. Life asked death, "Why does everyone hate you and love me? Because I am the truth that they do not want to believe. And you are an illusory and pleasant lie."